Okay, let's get going here. Excuse me. So, what did we get this past week? The slow drift that we've been talking about pretty much into the supply zone of the daily chart. We finished off the month. We're getting somewhat of a twins, not yet reaching the supply. Now we had a drop-based drop on the monthly, so we may have a little bit more room left. This is really going to be a wall. I don't really think we're going to get there without the pullback, to be honest with you. This is starting to look like a rally-based rally. Might want to get here, but we're stuck right here. I think we need to see this first. I think that's the more likely scenario at this point. We were not really very strong on the way up into here. It was a lot of these little basing candles, right? No real strength in this move yet. It's more like almost a defensive move as we try to, fight off these lows. So until we develop some kind of strong low, then we have to assume that this supply is going to start working. So even though we are trending up on the smaller time frames, we've reached the end of the line. I think, we've got this 200 moving average over here is like a wall. And we've got the top of the Bollinger Bands, and we're in supply. And, is there a little bit more room? Maybe on the smaller time frame. I think we have like something up to like 27, 25, 6. We'll look at the number now. But that's about it. So we're looking for this move, and I think it's going to happen this week. We've gotten most of the news stuff out of the way with the FOMC and the NFP, and lots of major earnings. They're all done now, so it looks to me like it's time for this little pullback to start. How far is it going to go is yet to be determined, but I think we're going to see that daily demand get touched. Let's zoom out a little bit on the 60 chart over here, and this is the level that's really left over there. Let's take a look. So yeah, like 2730 or so. Let's just take a look at what it looks like. Yeah, so there's really serious supply over here. Okay, you could see the big move and then the base and then the big drop. So that's about as far as I'd be willing to say it's going to get this week. I don't even know if it's going to get there, but I think we're going to see a major pullback. Most likely somewhere down into the 2550 neighborhood, somewhere around this area where we broke out of this bottom down here. So we're talking about something like this, maybe here, 2550-ish, before we can start rallying again. So there's going to be some serious selling pressure, I think, clicking in. We're just going to wait for it to start. Do I want to be long anymore? Well, not anymore where we are. The shorts will start once we start to see, I would say, like 15-minute downtrend. That's when we're going to start thinking about getting short. As far as longs, when we get back down, into those levels down over here, we'll talk about getting long again. So I think the smart money this week is on the short side. Okay. Let's take a look at what we got on the 15. Zooming out. So yeah, we've hit supply up here. There was like a little gap zone. This was the one that I tweeted out on Friday. This zone worked out really nicely. It looks like there might be something just above it on the 15, above the 2730. It looks like it might even go up 40. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's with the leg-in type stuff where I'll just zoom in and show you what I'm looking at over here. So this zone is the one that I tweeted on Friday. That's the one we hit. We got into this little gap area thing over here. And the top of the zone was the leg-in over here. And then we have this thing up here, which is, again, with the leg-in, throwing out this 30 to 40 range up here someplace. We'll have to see if we can get through this zone. I don't know that we're going to get through this zone, to be honest with you. So, if it does, this is even a better short. But this is more the likely spot, I think, at this point, up into the mid-2720s, and then we're down from there. So, looking for shorts. As soon as they develop, we want to start that because it's a mid-term or short-term swing trade. It might take, 3-4 days, and we work our way down into that demand underneath us. All right, let's zoom out. Let's go look at the NASDAQ. If anyone has a question, feel free. Okay. NASI. So on the NASDAQ, we actually, on the, we get through a little bit the top of the wick over here on the weekly level, but you'll see on the 60 and stuff like that, we're right where we should be as far as tops We'll have to see how that plays out. But again, I think the smart money is pullback time is coming. All right, we have a little pair of twins over here on the monthly chart at the end of the month, and supply sort of not there yet. Right? We're looking at something like this potentially developing, and then when we're talking about major pullbacks. And again, even over here, on the daily chart, we're looking, I think, for a 6,400 number at this point. It's a pretty big fall from where we are. 400 or 500 points down for NASI coming this week. Let's take a look on the 240. Okay, so yeah, I mean we've gotten, well, actually looks like I turned it into demand. The supply was over here, right? And we got slightly through that, and we built this little rally-based rally over here. If you look at the trend line that I drew, you'll notice that we were here dancing on the line. Then we broke underneath it over here a little bit. We weren't able to. We recapture it, and now it's dancing over here again on this trend line. And it looks like this is the place where the battle is starting. We're in the supply zone. We got slightly through the 40 zone. On the 60, we're actually there. Take a look at it now, and that's about it. I think we're going to sell off even from where we are. If we get up here, that's even better. I don't know that we are. We're looking for pull back into this demand zone over here. Again, the same idea where we broke out of this little bottom area over here. That's the area that should get tested and confirm that this whole little channel up here is real, because it really doesn't look very strong at all. You can see that. Not a lot of major big candles like these big ass explosive candles. They're not really in here. All right. We're going to expect a back test again. Bottom of the Bollinger Band over here on the 240. That's a 6,600 number, 6,500 number, somewhere around there. Okay. Now we're looking for shorts again this week. Money's on the short side. Let's take a look. This 60, and this is over here, looking like a little bit of a double top. It's made a lower high for sure. Again, this is the level that I tweeted out on Friday. I got slightly through the top, and we pushed back down, and again, some demand over here, and then some 15 demand lower down, whatever. But this looks pretty decent. We'll have to see what happens with this zone when we get here. Otherwise, we're looking for something underneath this. I mean, the pullback needs to be a little bigger because of the higher time frame, not because of the 60. All right, what we should see is something like this. We get a pop, and we do this, and we work our way down to 6,500, and then we get the higher time frame kicking in, building a nice little low for us, and then we could talk about, potentially making a run for some higher numbers. But for now, I see shorts here. Okay, trend is still up on the 60. We can't start the shorts. We do have the lower high on Friday, from Friday over here when we had this little gap thing. That was the level we were talking about. And then we're waiting to break down underneath here. So it looks like it just retested the lows of the prior day session, and then we're having an overnight session, and just hung out there and finished off the day. So pretty decent trade. It was really the only trade available on Friday was that short off those levels on the equities. Let's take a look at crude. Friday I didn't expect this rally, and we ended up with an engulfing candle on the weekly, which is showing a lot of strength and a lot of room up here still. Again, not really creating any kind of test of these lows. It's all one directional still. But this one's a rally-based rally, which creates demand. So, even if we get a pullback, we'll have to see if we get below here now. 50 looks to be the level. I think we need to see another test of 50. We had a pretty decent sell-off early in the week, if you remember. We ended up pushing down into like 51-ish over here with some lower highs. It was like the Monday trade, I think it was. We were in the shorts down into here, and then we start rallying from that level, and we ended up closing pretty strong. We didn't get through the daily supplies just yet, and the top of the Bollinger Bands are right there on the daily chart. So we're in, supply here too. Expect some kind of resistance. I don't know how far the pullback's going to come just yet. It's possible that we just break through this area and push all the way up to 58. So I'm watching crude for a potential breakout to the upside, but I'm, again, still looking for the shorter side because we haven't had a real test of the lows on the higher time frame yet. We've been making this, this was a nice move down and a strong rally out of this thing over here, right? Beautiful demand zone that rallies out of here. And we have these higher highs and higher lows, but again, from the 60 perspective, we're not in doubt that the trend is up. trend is definitely up over here. We're just saying that the higher time frames have reached the level where it's time to confirm that that this is going to translate into an uptrend on the higher time frames. And therefore, for that to happen, we have to start selling off a little bit and come back into some of the lower levels of demand. So I want to look for a long in crude lower down. And again, I would be starting shorts after the 15 flips into a downtrend, because looking at this weekly chart over here and the daily chart, there's a lot of room. Again, you can see that the rally out of 50, right, up to 55 is not strong. It's very choppy. It hasn't really been tested yet. This level needs to get hit. Okay? So if I look at it from here, it's the same story. It's all the one-directional stuff. So we're gotten to the spot where, well, okay, it's time to do this. We'll drop into here, and if it's really going to rally, great, but it needs to get tested. So we're watching for that to develop again this week. And then a strong move out of there. I think we're going to probably see somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 before we really start selling off again. But we should see something like this, and then a rally, and then over here when we get to like 65, back where we broke down underneath this area, you can see the 50 moving average, and that's where we'll get a real big test. Back down to 52 type of thing. But on the smaller time frame, 55 down to 50 on the daily, I expect something like that to happen probably this week. Again, confirming this zone. Okay, so we're watching for that to develop. Until it does, can't get short yet. The trend is definitely up on the 60, no question about it. Let's just look at some supply zones up above us on the 60. Zooming out. So we got we're coming up into this. Let me zoom into the to supply zones. We'll take a look at what they look like in construction. A couple of zones coming up. Looks like we've already hit this one, which is like wicks against the wall. This 55, 70 to 60 or so. Right, this thing got touched. Now we're going to come up into there's a 57, and then the 58 change. So that's what it looks like, right? 57, 50-ish, and then a 58 zone. I don't think we're getting beyond that. For now, without a pullback. More than likely, we end up maybe getting a little deeper into this zone and then really selling off just a little higher up here. 56.29 is the top of the zone. How far in did we go? Let's take a look. So really, barely. So even if we do get out of this and, this more tonight, we gap in or rally into this, I think we're going to see some pretty strong selling pressure out of this level. So keep your eyes on that. So even though most of the trends are up so far, the smart money looks to be a little bit short side over here. All right, we're going to wait for the shorts to develop on the little time frame, but that's what we're looking for at this point. Okay. Okay, let's zoom in and let's move on to gold, which is really getting ready for an explosive breakout. Let's take a look at gold on the monthly chart. First of all, notice so you've got 4 months in a row green. This is a higher low. Okay, and we're coming back to this level, which should give way, which means this is really pointing to somewhere in the neighborhood of 1400 on the monthly chart. Top of the Bollinger Band is 1370. The supply starts at 1396. There's room here to do this. Okay, really nice strong move over here. On the weekly chart again, breaking up and into the supply zone. Do we get a small pullback into a little time frame demand? I believe we do, just because of the strong push. Also because we had rollover, we left a little bit of a rollover gap right around 1300 and change. That's going to be the long entry for this next coming leg that we're looking for. So, a pullback 15, 20 bucks into some demand, and then the next pop comes. So we're looking for a long. I don't know when it's going to start. Hopefully it can get down there this week, but I'm looking at this rollover gap area, so this little crisscross between the old trend lines that were there. We gapped right through that zone. It's like on this chart 05 up to like 13. And as we go down through this time zone, I'll show you exactly where this zone is. We're going to try to buy that demand over here when it gets hit. So that's the trade we're waiting for. Let's take a look. It's one of the really nice ones I saw besides the yen trade that looks really, here it is. Okay. So on the 60, you could see the gap. And it's totally very clear. Okay, this is the rollover gap, and then right under it, there's another level. Okay, this like 96, 93. I say we have to buy the first demand zone at this point. It's a pretty big sell-off into the zone over here. We're talking about potentially $20. So this is a buy, and should it not hold, this is also a buy. Okay, but this is where the swing trade's going to start, somewhere over here. We're going to watch for that zone. Should we get hit, the way that this is set up, you can see the 60. It's got a little head and shoulders over here, right? And you can see that we've got air underneath us. We should break down out of this, and that should get us into this demand zone, which is enough, to get this swing trade entry trigger for us here for a long, with a potential target of 1,400, so $100 in gold. So really, really, really nice trade. Hopefully it triggers this week. We'll tweet it out once we're in that zone, but that's what we're looking for. You can see the air that I'm talking about over here on the 15-minute chart. We've cleared out the bottom of the demand. We had this little doji candle inside here, this rally-based rally, so we get a beautiful pop out of that. And then we come back with the lower high after we hit the supply over here, and we base. It's ready to give way, so we should break down through that. And once that happens, with all this air under here, maybe we get enough momentum, pushes us into the rollover gap. That's where we want to get long. Okay? Cool. Nice looking setup. So far, so good. Any questions, raise your hand, and be glad to call on you. In the meantime, I'm going to keep going. Okay? The dollar. So this week we had, some Fed news, and Powell starts, telling us about, pausing on the interest rates and all that fun stuff, and the dollar got beat up a little bit after that, obviously. But it was able to sort of fight off after that a little bit, right? This was Wednesday. That was Powell. And then Thursday was a decent bounce, and Friday we sort of got even a continuation where this is starting to look like it might want to do this, right? So I'm not convinced yet that that's what it's going to do. I don't know yet. The weekly candle is a doji, and it is making lower lows, and it is a continuation of the last week's sell-off. So I'm not ready to make a call there yet. The monthly candle was also a doji, and we're in demand, so I'm not ready to make a call there either. So the dollar is sort of in limbo. Not sure what it wants to do. It looks like the 200 average over here on the daily chart is support currently, right? Until we break underneath that and close under there, I'm not sure we're selling off just yet. We may bounce around a lot in this neighborhood over here for a little bit. I think that's probably the likely scenario. We're going to pop around in between the supply and demand over here until they figure out what the hell they want to do with this thing. So we'll see how that goes over this week. It's more of sideways trading on the equities. I don't see a clear path yet for the dollar over here. So I'm sorry, not equities, the currencies. Taking a look at the euro, it's a similar story. The monthly candle is a doji, right? We had this potential for a big reversal out of the prior month's close, and we never got it. We just get a little doji. We did have the higher low here, but we never really get much of a continuation. We're pausing in here. I think we're going to see it's just a lot of banging around inside here, right? We get back to the supply zone, and we're hanging around. We hit this lower time demand on the daily, and we're just chilling. There's the supply and the demand, big over here, break out of the highs. It's a 200 average. It's just sitting. So sideways stuff for the euro, buy and sell extremes, for smaller time frame trades. As far as direction on the higher time frame, unclear at this point. We don't know which way it's going anymore. Let's take a look over here on the 60. It is currently in an uptrend still, but looking like we should be seeing a pullback at least to here, right? You can see the supply that was hit. You can see it already had the lower highs. And now, the next level of demand that's going to hold it up is somewhere over here, 14 and change or 1400. So from a smaller time frame perspective, if we start breaking down under here, so there's a decent trade over here. And again, it's not a long-term trade anymore because the higher time frame is telling us we're going to be bouncing around, which means we're probably going to react off of 60/240 demand supply until we start to figure out the direction. So that's it. So then my target would be here. Maybe I want to reverse and go long over here if we start holding the levels, and then just play inside these ranges for a week or so and see what happens with the euro. Okay, that's for dollar euro. Let's look at Aussie. This one looks very strong, surprisingly, But we do create the higher low over here after this big bounce off the bottom, right? We were in that downtrend. We do rally up, and then we create this rally base rally. We close above the level with strength, okay? Nice pop back into this roll. We rally out, and we're closing strong. Look at this uptrend, uptrend. So we've got into some supply. Trend is up. I think we want to start buying Aussie dollar, looking decent. And therefore pullbacks into demands on a 1560. That's the trade for now. Looks like we got into one over here on Friday, and we sort of banged around and came back to it. We'll have to see how that plays out. If it does break down, there's a lot of room, but this is the level you want to buy right here. Okay, so looking for longs over here. I think around 71.75 or so for the Aussie dollar. Next target should be about 73 and change, up into the supply up here, above these highs. So long here. That's the trade we're looking for an Aussie dollar. Pounds, after we got this, Brexit stuff going on this week. We had a nice monthly candle, really nice monthly candle for the pound, right? We hold the low, we shoot out, and looks fairly decent. I mean, we got some room up here. Looks like a test maybe of 50 average. There's a little supply zone over here. It's a level up here on the daily, which we'll look at in a second. This level, I think, is the same, right? 137. Yeah, that's the level. So this supply over here looks like to be the next target if we're going to continue the long. I say if because you can see that on the weekly we had broken above the trend line the prior week. We hit the 50 average on the weekly, and we backtested directly to the trend line, and then we started to pause a little bit. We rallied back a drop. So this week will determine if we turn this green, we should be looking for a short somewhere up here, or potentially a long up into that zone if we get the uptrend on the smaller time frames. Okay, but if we do hold this break of the trend line, then we have a shot to get all the way up to 1.37, 3.6, whatever that is, 365 on the Aussie dollar. Okay, on the pound. So let's take a look over here on the daily. I think that's pretty nice looking short once we get up there. Can we take longs on the way up? Yeah, I mean this level over here that we've got is nothing great. Looks against the wall. It really should be even a little higher. I would say we should adjust this zone. Let's do that now. It looks like this doji up here is really the zone. This, right? That's where the supply is 135. It looks like these levels over here have already been hit. Right? We've already gotten into this level over here, and if we start making a higher low, so that's it. We're going to get through there. Next supply looks to really be over here, and then this is that weekly zone up here. So smaller time frame demand zones can be bought and ride the pound up into those levels. It looks like that's something that makes sense over here. Let's take a look at the 1560. So we get a better looking zone. That's really nice. Okay. Two decent levels. The first one is really nice. You can see that we took this supply, turned it into demand. Nice fresh zone right at 1.3, big, giant round number. And then should it break that, this is where you really want to try the long, right underneath here, 2950 to 2970. And that gives you a target, for all the way up to the 136 number. So that's a beautiful trade. Currently, this is, let's see, trend over here. Makes the lower high. It stays still up until we really break down out of here. But that's, again, from this 60 chart, from the higher time frame, we're starting to break out of the weekly level, and we've got a lot of air over there. Just go back 1 second, take a look at what we're seeing. This right here has got nothing in the way. So should we start to rally this week and put a green candle on here, right over here, this turns green, we're looking at, that's the target. And that's an absolute short. That's like, don't think twice about the short over here. But that's a pretty big move to the upside still coming. So pounds long this week. Okay. Good. Let's go look at the Canadian, which really had a crazy move. I think it's starting to end, if you ask me. I think we're ready for a pullback on Canadian. We're getting all the way back into the weekly supply, to the top of the supply, to the 50 average on the weekly chart. We have a rally-based rally again, without a test of any of this, which was a downtrend. downtrend. This is still a downtrend. And now it's time for, it's time for this 7,500 test. Okay, so we should see some selling pressure kicking in over here. We closed outside the Bollinger Bands and outside the 200 moving average on the daily. And we've come into supply on some of the smaller time frames, so 60 for sure, 240 I think also. My line must have moved, it looks like, when I was drawing something over here. I remember this being in supply somehow. We'll take a look at it, but we're looking at a pullback coming, I think, to this 7,500, somewhere over here. Okay, like that. I want to look at that zone up there. What's that zone? Yeah, it looks like the lines are too close together. I think it must have moved when I was drawing it. Let's go fix it. Yeah, okay. Really like this. This is the wick. And that's the wall behind it. That's the leg in. So the line that did move. And yeah, so we hit the supply. We start selling off already over here. Let's take a look at the smaller time frames. Oops. Oh boy. Okay, so there's the supply absolutely getting tagged. And looks like where this demand was already used one time from this level over here with this little wick, it shot up in there. We got it breaking out, the next level of demand really is this far. So we should see something like this. And then another push up and then break down into the 75. This is the level somewhere down here, 75, 75.1, this range, where the next rally should start. So once we do make this lower high over here, this looks like the entry probably on a 15 chart, somewhere right over here, 76, 500. Let's look at the 15-minute chart right there. Should be a supply zone. That would be a very nice short entry. Once we break down in there, yeah, 76.5, whatever that number is. Okay, so we should push into here, and then we'll rally back up, and this is a short signal entry into this short that I'm talking about. A big push down to somewhere down here. So shorts on Canadian, okay? Everything has reached its higher time frame levels where, yeah, the trend is up on a lot of the currencies and the equities and stuff, but the higher time frame is telling us that, that's it. It's in the zone where the pullback needs to happen, and that's what we have to anticipate is going to take control, because the lower time frames can dictate price action until the higher time frame reaches its level, and then the higher time frame will take over and turn over these things. That's what I think we're watching the beginning of that turn this week, where we're going to start flipping this thing around the other way for a little while. This is the clearest trade. I've seen the next one coming up over here for the week on the yen. First, notice the monthly candle. Okay, got a big inverted hammer off supply on the monthly chart, waiting to test below the lows over here on the weekly chart, and then the push, drop, right, rally, we turn around, drop, base, right over here. This should break down. That's what we're looking for. There's the engulfer on Friday, in continuation on the hammer on Friday. So a little bounce out of this demand zone that we're in now into supply over here is the short entry. We're looking for this, bang, into this low. Okay, and you could see over here that on the daily, there's a really nice test coming over here of this zone. Look what's in this area. Just did this little golden cross over here on the daily where we flip the 50 over the 200, and that will usually get the test, besides the fact that it's demand, right inside the zone. So this is absolutely where you want to join longs, no question about that part. But we're not near that. We're all the way over here. So we should see something like this into this zone and then out through the top. Okay. But first, that sell-off. That's a pretty big sell-off over here. We're talking about something around the level that's around 920 into 9, so big. Let's go look down here on the 60 and the 15. Yeah, there's the zone. Okay. We already started. You can see this little piece of the puzzle is done. We've filled the air on the other side. A little bounce off of the demand that we're arriving in should bring us back to this area, okay, to create some symmetry, right? This should come out somewhere over here, like right here, right? It's right around the 9.2 number, look here. That's the short entry, okay? So we're going to look for that to develop now. We'll push into here, a short entry, a breakdown into 9. Okay? That's what I like for the yen this week. Take a look at that gas. Monthly candle gets a continuation on the dragonfly. Okay, start to break down over there. After the big red candle, then we get the close underneath the low for the right, and then we already start selling off again. So we've erased this island bottom with the gap after that, showing tremendous pressure and landing back in some demand. After all this selling, it should be a little back test. Short inside the gap makes a lot of sense. Okay, short inside here makes a lot of sense. A short out of 3. Looks like we have potential on this nat gas over here. If we look at the candles, we break 2.5, and we end up somewhere underneath that. So, if we get a chance to get to short 3, is a 500-point gap move potentially coming down just to reach the bottom of the zone is 2.5. So, and if that breaks, so you're talking about even more than that, So, shorts are the way to go. I like the short out of the gap. So if we end up gapping into this gap over here, I think we might start getting shorts. We know nat gas is just nasty on Sundays. We'll have to see which way it goes. But a short this week seems to make sense for what we're looking at here. Let's take a look at the 60 to 40. There's downtrend, absolutely downtrend on the 60. This is last week's gap. We tried to get in a few times. We sold off, ended up breaking down further. So nice looking short over here. Okay, over here, a little close to current price. We'll have to wait and see. But this one looks pretty good, 2.86. Or if it should gap up tonight and land inside last week's gap, also a short. Okay. So looking for shorts on that gas. Copper. Finally have direction, I think. We'll see if I'm right. But first notice what happened over here. If we look at the last 6 months of copper on the monthly chart, we've gone absolutely no place. Red, green, red, green, red, green, and just about equal closes every time. The lows are closing at the prior highs. Candles are almost exactly the same size for 6 months continuously. And we're about to watch, we're actually watching, I'm going to blow this up, the golden cross starting on a monthly chart for copper. So no question that the averages, if you look, is what's holding price. Obviously, it's a demand zone, but the moving average here on the monthly chart, they're both right there. They're at the lows of these basing candles. Okay, and we're starting to get the cross going over here, where we're looking at the 50 coming above the 200. Okay, that should create this move for us. Okay, we should be getting all the way up here and probably through this zone. Copper is starting to break out on the daily chart, higher lows, higher highs, back to this level. So a pullback into demand is a long at this point. I think we should see this level get tested, maybe test the trend line one more time, depending on what happens when we get up into this zone. I don't know yet, but right now I want to be long copper. So any pullback into demand will give us a copper long with a target of 2.9. Okay. Here's copper. There's the demand zone on the 60. Looks pretty nice. I don't know. Right in here. Prior high, demand. 2.9 is our target. So we're looking for longs on copper. Soy, my favorite. It's been a really mean asset so far. There's like not giving people a chance to get into the long, but it is still a long. That much I can tell you. It looks really great. As far as the weekly chart, we're still holding the lows. We're flat over here. We should be breaking out into the air very shortly. All the highs, you can see the wedge up here, right? We keep holding the bottom. You can see it really clear. Okay, and yeah, every time it rallies up, it pushes back a little bit, but it's still making higher lows. So you're gonna have to start to buy this thing if you want to get into the swing, because I don't think it's going to give you much more opportunity. Friday, it ended up pulling back into the gap. And you can see the demand where it just closed out the day after it got to 930 and change. So obviously a really big rally, and then a pretty decent sell-off back into the demand zone over here. Okay, we'll have to see how it opens tonight. But, pullbacks into demand are longs for soy. If you're trading the swing trade, the target's still 10. So we've got a ways to go. There isn't a lot of great entries underneath us because of the way we've been channeling up here. So look here, it's just chop, 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 chop over the last, 2 weeks or so with this mess over here going on. But all the lows are higher. You can see that. Okay, so every time it pushes down into some demand, if you're interested in a swing trade, you're going to have to take an opportunity and buy and put your stop underneath and see what happens down there. Okay, but there's a big breakout coming for soy to the upside. And the bonds, last but not least, have triggered the swing trade that I was talking about in Wednesday's webinar, and I tweeted it on Friday. We did get on the monthly chart up into the top of the supply zone. Okay, and you could see that over here on the weekly chart, after hitting the supply, the demand underneath us started to hold. And then we get Powell telling us he isn't raising rates anymore. Right? So the interest rates starting to feel pressure to the downward side. That's going to give strength to the price of the bonds. And on Friday, we get a pretty decent reversal, but it lands us right in the demand zone that we were looking for. Okay, rally-based rally right at the area of the prior highs, and we drop straight into the zone. That's the swing trade entry. That's the one that we tweeted out, and that's the level we're looking for that to hold. I'm expecting this to make new highs out of here. We should see this reverse, get up here, and take us all the way to the top of this supply zone, potentially even higher. So 149 for now is the target, which is still $4 from where we are, $3 and change from where we are, and it's a very nice long swing trade for bonds. You can see the development of the trade. It's starting to hold. There's the demand zone on the 60. Beautiful arrival straight into the zone. Trend is up. Bang. There it is on the 15. We touch the outside of the zone. This should start reversing out of here. And we should start to see this rally. It's still available for anyone who wants it. The stop is currently underneath the 60 zone right over here. Okay. So not a bad looking trade for anyone who's interested in swing trades on the bonds. Great little setup here for a potential $3 move. Okay. Let's save all our work over here. And if anyone has a question, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will see you all on Wednesday. Okay. Sending out the recording a little bit. Have a great Sunday and trade safe, trade smart. See you guys Wednesday.